It started with a message that no one could explain. The screen had only one line. "They're watching. You've gone too far." No number, no contact. Just the words glowing in the dark, hours before anyone would realize the gravity of what was unfolding. The room was silent except for the faint hum of a refrigerator, but the hair on my arms stood up, a cold warning of something bigger lurking beyond sight. Something ancient, something that moved in shadows. It wasn't just paranoia, it felt like a pulse. Like the air itself was aware of eyes following every heartbeat. I had been staring at the map for hours, tracing lines and symbols that didn't make sense at first glance. Cities, landmarks, coded coordinates all, connected by invisible threads. And in the middle of it, like a dark heart, were the groups no one dared name out loud. Secret societies, hidden networks, the elite families who seemed untouchable. That map, this Great Awakening map, wasn't just a conspiracy theory. It was a warning. And every mark on it whispered a question. Who controls the unseen strings of our world? The first signs were subtle. Invitations to exclusive clubs, mysterious letters sealed with unfamiliar crests, doors that opened only at midnight. People whispered about societies older than nations, groups that thrived in ritual and secrecy. Some claimed these were nothing more than fraternal orders, harmless social clubs for powerful men. But as I dug deeper, I found evidence that suggested otherwise. Symbols in architecture, hidden chambers beneath historic buildings, and patterns of influence reaching into politics, media, even finance. Each discovery felt like walking down a corridor that shouldn't exist. A corridor whose exit might lead nowhere or straight into danger. And then there was the Illuminati. Not the caricature you see in movies or memes, but a real network said. To manipulate history like pieces on a chessboard. They weren't myth. They were patterns, sudden collapses, unexplainable market shifts, the rise of certain families in positions of influence, whispers of initiation rituals, oaths that bound members in silence, and decisions made far from public scrutiny. The map hinted at their reach, marking their presence like constellations in the shadows of global power. And when I compared locations, dates, and events, a horrifying connection began to emerge. It was methodical, almost surgical in its precision. Freemasons, often dismissed as a fraternity of quirky traditions, carried their own layer of secrets. Hidden symbols in public buildings, coded language in historical documents, meetings with guest lists no ordinary researcher could access. The more I traced their networks, the more it felt like a labyrinth, where each door led to another maze, and at the center, something unthinkable. The idea that these groups simply hosted charity, polls, or discussed philosophy didn't hold up. The deeper I looked, the clearer it became. There were levels no outsider could penetrate, and each level carried influence that shaped real-world events without leaving fingerprints. Some of the most unsettling moments came from whisper stories that couldn't be verified, yet all shared a common thread. Politicians mysteriously aligned in decisions favoring unseen powers, business empires consolidating under unknown patrons, and a network of elites who seemed to coordinate their moves across decades. The Great Awakening map showed nodes of influence, connecting people and places in ways that felt like a blueprint for control. And the more I tried to untangle it, the more I realized that knowing was dangerous. There were names, symbols, rituals, and histories that demanded silence, because the cost of exposure wasn't just reputation, It could be life itself. By the 8th scene, I discovered a document that chilled me to the bone. A ledger listing members of an unknown council. Names that appeared in different eras, in different continents, yet sharing one unmistakable pattern. They all wielded unimaginable influence, often behind the curtain. And here's the twist. The map didn't just reveal hidden groups. It revealed connections within connections. One society's thought independent was actually a branch of another, larger network, each layer more clandestine than the last. What I assumed were separate organizations were parts of a single, sprawling web. The realization hit like ice. History had always been edited, steered by those whose faces we never see. Then came the communications, encrypted messages that referenced dates and decisions decades in advance. I began noticing patterns, sudden resignations, unexplained mergers, policy shifts that seemed orchestrated rather than random. The Freemasons, the Illuminati, elite networks, they weren't just secret for secrecy's sake. They had a method, a plan mapped across generations. And the map, it was a key, not just a diagram, but a guide for understanding how events aligned. With their influence, how society could be nudged without anyone realizing it. It felt like standing at the edge of a chessboard where I didn't even know the rules. And then the twist I couldn't ignore. Some nodes on the map corresponded to people I knew personally, friends, colleagues, figures I trusted. They weren't just tangentially connected, they were active participants in this hidden lattice of power. The map suddenly became a warning, not just information. There was no conspiracy from afar. It was embedded in the familiar, in places I walked every day. Every handshake, every nod, every chance encounter might have been orchestrated. And for the first time, I felt the true weight of awareness. Knowledge was not just power, it was peril. The 10th scene unveiled the truth in all its grim clarity. These societies weren't myths. They weren't harmless clubs. They were architects of influence, shadow rulers steering humanity's path. The Illuminati, Freemasons, and elite councils formed layers of unseen authority, shaping politics, finance, media, even conflict. And the map, it wasn't just a tool, it was proof. Proof that reality was filtered, curated, and directed by hands we never see. Every random event had a pattern. Every sudden rise and fall had a hand guiding it. Humanity, I realized, was dancing to a tune composed in silence, in rooms no one would ever enter, by those who never showed their faces. And in that final realization, I understood what the message had meant from the start. The eyes were everywhere, not in the sense of surveillance cameras or social. Mediable in the invisible corridors where decisions are made and lives are quietly manipulated. The map had illuminated the truth, but it had also made me a witness. And as I looked at it one last time, tracing its lines, I felt the weight of countless stories, countless lives steered without consent, all converging into a single, chilling question. If you are watching, who is really in control?